NCAA tournament. We're now joined by Tim Brando. He's got all the history of a lot of these as well. Fox Sports joins us a lot. We appreciate his time. Tim, is this, and we just mentioned 2008 Final Four. We've mentioned a couple of other years, but is this the bluest of the blue bloods you've ever seen?
It's up there, but if you don't mind, would you allow me just a second to point something out to all of our college football and basketball fans?
Yes.
For just a second. All right. Now, would you guys agree that if you love college sports, that the last 2.5 and at the end of this weekend, next Monday, a week from today, would you say that college basketball pretty much owned the calendar of sports in your life for that 3-week period?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Juxtapose that with the national championship and the college football playoff. Do you think they owned that 3-week period?
No.
They didn't even own like a 3-day period, really, Tim.
Okay. Well, I rest my case on a 12-team format for the college football playoff because, those teams that are not going to be participating in the biggest of the games add to the drama and to the joy, the pure joy of competition. That St. Peter's and Miami were two lower seeds that made it compelling, and even some other teams that were knocked out. Arkansas coming from a 4 seed, getting to the Elite Eight again. These teams all contribute. The inclusion of these teams make the event the event. Now, the championships will still go in all likelihood to teams that have had multiple national championships, and 3 of the 4 coaches are already in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. And the other coach in his first year has played for national titles and is a part of the North Carolina program, Hubert Davis. So I rest my case that if college football's leaders, who are also very much a part of this tournament as commissioners of the very leagues that we're discussing here, if they don't understand that, then what the hell planet are they on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What the hell planet are they on to not understand how captivating this tournament has been? And even though the finals, the semifinals and finals will be on CBS, the ratings are going to be through the roof with these teams because the alumni bases are incredible. Now, it would be a larger rating if they were on CBS rather than TBS because of the cable versus over-the-air network situation. But this is TBS's year contractually to have the semifinals and championship game. But it's just incredible. 40 years ago, as a Cub reporter at WGSO Radio in New Orleans, I was 26 years old, and it was my second Final Four. I'd been to the one in Philly in 1981, covering LSU. And the following year, doing a nightly sports talk show on Canal Street, I was on hand and got my credential that way for that Final Four. And think about it. Georgetown had freshman Patrick Ewing. Houston had Akeem the Dream Olajuwon to go along with Clyde Drexler, and Phi Slama Jama was just getting rolling. Then you had Louisville with the McRae brothers and Milt Wagner and so many other great players. Charles Smith, just a fantastic team that had won a national title 2 years earlier with the Doctors of Dunk, Darrell Griffith. And also you had North Carolina with Perkins and Worthy, who were, by the way, bigger names than Michael Jordan as a freshman. Okay, with Black and Matt Doherty, the rest of the starting 5. Think about how big that was at that time. This will be bigger than that. Okay, it will be bigger than that. And it's 40 years later, and the event has taken on, that was the first real big success story of a dome stadium with the Final Four. Houston had it, but it wasn't quite as big of a deal in the 70s. This was much larger, and at this point, the NCAA knew that people just wanted to be at the event. They didn't care how good or bad their seat was. They just wanted to be there. So it will be a fantastic Final Four, and it's been a tremendous tournament. I mean, just the double-digit seeds winning early, as I suggested they would. They all did. And the ones that lost were very competitive. We didn't have very many blowouts until things settled down this weekend and in the regional finals.
Tim, just to go back to your earlier point about football, we as an American television public, we like basketball for a little while each year. We like it a lot, but we love football. We're married to football. Like, that's something that kind of boggles my mind. If something that we love, somehow we've talked to ourselves that we want less of it.
Yeah. We allow the elitists to tell us, well, they're not going to win anyway, so why have them in? They're not going to win it all, so why have them in? I never really thought St. Peter's would win it all, but was it fun having them in? Okay, did Miami's run with Jim Larinaga, were they worthy as a 10th seed? You're damn right they were. I mean, it was those are the stories and the captivating aspects of the tournament. And it's almost as if college football just doesn't want to admit that the other sport had a better idea. And these are the same people that are running both sports, but they just don't want to admit that the other sport had a better idea.
Yeah, I'm awfully confused by massive college football media member and fan Kirk Herbstreit advocating against it. I don't understand why he's rooting against the sport that he covers.
Kirk wants to do the NFL. We now know that.
Yeah,
sure, right?
Yeah. Tim, if
we didn't know it before, we know it now. He's got some Jeff Bezos money to work with because he's doing the NFL.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Tim, read at the stat earlier on just the number of tournaments that Duke and North Carolina have appeared in, and obviously a couple weeks ago, and the big matchup, and North Carolina gets the win there. I mean, how cool is it to have, the first ever tournament matchup between these two? It's a Final Four, Coach K's last ride. North Carolina just beat them a couple. I mean, you couldn't have scripted this any better, even if you were Hollywood.
Yeah, it's above and beyond historic. I mean, people, I noticed a few people in the media were like, gee, I can't believe Duke and Carolina never met in the tournament before. And I'm like, okay, we need to do a history lesson again. In the John Wooden era, there were only 32 teams, and you had to win your league to get a bid if you were in the ACC. And if you didn't win the league, see Maryland for details in 1974 when NC State beat them in arguably one of the greatest games ever played, albeit not in an NCAA tournament, when Maryland and North Carolina State went at it. And Lefty, never made it to a Final Four, Lefty Driesell. But, we only had 32 teams. So, you weren't going to get a chance to play a team that was in your conference in the NCAAs. Now, they moved it up to 48 in the 70s, and the chance was enhanced a little bit, but not enough to make a difference. And then when they went to 64, which was in 1985, you do recall that year, the NCAA just could not keep the Big East from having a party in Lexington when Georgetown, Villanova, and St. John's all made it to the Final Four, with the one party crasher being Memphis State. That was an incredible year for that league, and it was also the first year of the tournament going to 64. And frankly, that's when this thing took on an all-new life of its own. In 91, it almost happened. It was the year after Vegas had beaten Duke by 30 in Denver, and North Carolina had won its way into the Final Four in Indianapolis. They played Kansas. It was Roy against Dean. Roy got the win. You might recall Dean left the game before it ended after picking up a technical foul. And then it was Vegas and Duke, and Duke spoiled Vegas's coronation, and Kansas spoiled North Carolina's opportunity to play Duke in the championship. So it's really only been close to happening one time, and that was in 91. So especially given the fact that North Carolina ended Mike's reign at Cameron with a blowout victory late and spoiled his gala that was planned at Cameron Indoor Stadium afterwards. To have this matchup again only in the national championship semifinals, my goodness. The storylines are just off the charts. I mean, if Hubert Davis happens to pull off winning over Duke in K's last game in Cameron and then knocks him out of the profession with a victory in the semifinals, they might erect a statue of Hubert outside the Dean Dome. I mean, literally, that's how much it would mean to those fans. And then to have the undercard being a game with, a couple of Hall of Famers. Jay Wright and Bill Self are two Hall of Fame coaches themselves. That's just an amazing, amazing Final Four.
Yeah, that to me, if you look at it, yeah, who else could UCLA's name, Kentucky's name, but they were out so quickly. Indiana, which they're kind of like Nebraska in football. It's been a long time for them, and not the same as well. Tim, when you look at what Duke has done and North Carolina, what they have done, and the coaching to get him to this point, Hubert Davis, who's young in this, and then obviously Coach K. Villanova got blasted at Baylor, scored 36 points back when Baylor was rolling along with Scott Drew's team. The kind of resiliency these teams, Kansas with Remy Martin firing off now and playing like everyone thought he could play. There's some resiliency with some of these teams as well, if not all of them.
Yeah, I talk a lot about how teams evolve in college football, and they do. A lot of fans don't gravitate to it because they're not always paying attention. But teams do evolve. They get better as the season goes on. It's really, in basketball, it's more a case of not just evolving, but surviving, because the sport lasts so much longer. It's a 2-semester sport. Players are lost sometimes through attrition, or they're lost to injury, or maybe they got sick at the wrong time in the schedule. And then they have to pick up the pieces and redefine themselves and develop chemistry. You can make a great case that North Carolina's season turned, really, not until they beat Duke at Duke, that they finally then knew they had the chops to do it. They were blown out so badly in the first meeting in early February. I remember sitting in the Capitol Grill in Indianapolis. I'd just done a game at Purdue and had driven over to Indy, stayed overnight there, and I was watching the game with a couple of crew members of mine, and we were like in disbelief because, as you know, I did the Duke North Carolina game for Raycom 20 different times until 2019 when Raycom Sports went away. And I got no feeling that there was a rivalry game being played at Chapel Hill that day. The doors were blown off them 10 minutes into the game, and they never recovered. They offered no resistance to Duke, none. And after that embarrassment, they found a way to get themselves back up and going again. And then they're on display at a time when maybe most people were thinking, well, this is Kay's big swan song. It'll be his coronation. And then they pulled that off. They really took it to Duke and dismantled the Blue Devils that day. And you thought, wow, this is a North Carolina team that we had not seen all year. They were on the bubble up until that time. There was legitimate talk in mid-February, 2 weeks left in the regular season, that North Carolina only had one quad one win. One. Not three, not four, not two, one. Okay? So they didn't solidify themselves or feel good about themselves until they got that win. And then they went on this ride. And obviously to survive the 25-point comeback from your Baylor Bears, Hubert could have been he could be the greatest of all time in his first year, or he could have been the biggest joke artist in his first year with a 25-point deficit lost to Baylor. They wouldn't have forgotten that in the Carolinas. Trust me, they wouldn't have. But for them to survive that and his team to respond in the aftermath the way they did, they played their best basketball really since the Duke game and after the scare. And we could go on and on about, how the F2 was a big factor, and it was. But still, that was a blown lead. And a lot of that was because of Baylor, but a lot of it was because North Carolina was playing afraid. And you could tell they were playing afraid in the second half of that game. So the emotions and the reinventing of teams' chemistry in basketball is such a big deal. It's highly underrated, and I think in large measure because not enough people are paying attention for all 5 months of the college basketball season.
Tim, what do you think about the Jay Wright, Bill Self matchup on the court? Now, Jay Wright's going to be down one of his best players, but that never really seems to slow him down much. Other times he's got a week. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, all it's going to do is this is a basketball coach's chess match here because Kansas wants to get up and down the floor. And do what they do. Now, Miami was the right team for them to play. Miami was the right team for Kansas to play because under normal circumstances, that's what the Canes would have liked to have done. And they did a pretty good job of it in the first half. Slow the game down, force Kansas to defend much of the clock. The problem that Miami had was they didn't have enough guys to make shots. Villanova's got plenty of guys to make shots. Now they need to have a great shooting day, but they have the guys to do it. Samuels, the guy that will be replacing Jermaine Samuels, who was the most outstanding player in that region, is a great wing player, small forward, and two guard body that can post up and do things inside too. But Caleb Daniels, who's from New Orleans, went to high school in New Orleans, and played at Tulane through the 2019 season. He transferred to Villanova in 20. He now gets to come home and be a starter in the Superdome, not far from where he grew up and played high school ball. They only played 7. Now they're going to play 6. Now, I think Chris Archidiacono, Ryan's brother, can maybe play 5 to 10 minutes, give him some fouls, maybe put him in before a 12-minute or 8-minute TV timeout and give Colin Gillespie a chance to get an extra rest. But what this will do to Villanova is just force Gillespie to be on the ball a lot more. When Justin Moore is playing, he can play both point guard and the 2. And what that has done is put some pressure off of Colin and allow him to run through screens and maybe get open jump shots. And Justin Moore can handle the point. Now, Colin is going to have to dominate the ball a lot more as the point guard. And but Villanova will slow the pace of this game down. And they're a team that wants to limit the number of possessions that the other team has of the basketball. And if they can do that and force Kansas into playing nothing more than half court, don't let Abaji get off, then they'll be good. And they have the guy to do that. Dixon's a really good low post player. He's got some girth about him. I mean, it's a 50-50 proposition, even with Villanova down to 6 guys. I do think Kansas is the better team, and if they played 7 times, I would pick Kansas to win the best of 7. But on a one-game scenario and plenty of time to prepare, Jay is an artist, absolute artist. So that thing can go either way, and so can Duke, North Carolina.
Tim, what event have you not been a part of as a broadcast that you would want to do?
Oh, God. Well, I never called, obviously, a Final Four. I did the regional finals.
Right.
I never called a Final Four. But I've done significant games in college football, and I've done significant games in Major League Baseball when the Braves were World Series winner, and in the NBA playoffs. So, to be perfectly honest with you, unless it's some form of racing, unless it's horse racing or auto racing, I've had a part in every sport. I got to work the U.S. Open in tennis with Tony Trabert when I was at CBS. I got to work the Masters digitally when I was at CBS. I did the U.S. Open when we had it at Fox digitally. So I've been a part of just about every major sporting event you can be around. I will say that if one day the opportunity presents itself, and I don't know that it will, but it could. If the opportunity presents itself through expansion of the college football playoff and whoever I'm with at the time, I'm with Fox now, but whoever I'm with at the time, if I could be a part of a championship tournament or format with college football, that would be a big deal. I've done the Fiesta Bowl. I've done, big bowl games, but I've never done part of something as special as a college football playoff scenario with expansion. I wouldn't want to be a part of it now, obviously, but I think if we had something that was similar to the NCAA tournament, man, that would be a fun ride to take. Even if you weren't doing the finals, but you were doing a game leading to that moment, that would be a lot of fun. But I'd say other than the Derby and maybe Daytona or the Indy 500, to answer your question, those are the only sports that I've not really been a part of in any way, shape, fashion, or form.
Well, you're right. You're in Shreveport. You're next to Louisiana Downs. You can start there and work your way.
Yeah.
Maybe some dog racing in Opelika, Alabama, right?
Man, I tell you what, Louisiana Downs, when I worked in East Texas, back in the day, they used to have the best. They had the best media day ever.
Yeah.
My goodness.
The food was awesome.
Oh, Lord, it was unbelievable.
And the Super Derby was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, we got every major winner in the Triple Crown a couple of years, I think, to Louisiana Downs for the Super Derby.
We love the way you started this segment. We had talked a little bit about how much fun the tournament was and the interest it caught of the entire country because of not just St. Peter's, but a few others as well. And so much I wish college football could find a way, but not sure they can ever get past their stubbornness, but we'll see.
Well, I understand why they haven't. They're going to have to negotiate some new television contracts for each of the conferences, and once they get that done, hopefully they'll do the right thing. It's right there in front of them. They can't. I mean, these are well-intentioned guys that I know love the game. At some point, once they take care of their business, get their houses in order, hopefully we can expand this thing.
I know you have to do another hit at 4:30. Tim, someone mentioned last week, and it might have been you the last time, how important, if we had the expanded playoffs, whoever it might be, to win one of those games, what it's like for those first four in to win. It carries them forever.
It would be like winning a national championship. Let me tell you, for St. Peter's to get to the Elite Eight, just as it was for Valparaiso in '98 when Al McGuire and I were working, and we had them in the Sweet 16. For Valpo to be on that stage as a 13 seed back then was incredible. I remember Al McGuire saying, I asked him the question, what would it mean if a 13 seed could get to the Elite Eight? And Al looked at me and said, Timmy, it would be like a Norman Rockwell painting. It would be perfect. And I thought to myself, who the hell else would think of this other than Al McGuire? But even though St. Peter's got blown out, all right, and never had a chance from the jump against North Carolina, for that program, for the alumni of that school, and you watch their enrollment's going to jump up. Shaheen may be leaving, but they'll get a better coach than maybe they otherwise would have because of this run they had. St. Peter's, it's like winning a national championship for them. Okay? I mean, it really is. It will be in their brochure as big as the Baylor brochure when they won it all a year ago. Mm-hmm. Think about Boise State when they beat Oklahoma. Check out how their enrollment changed, in the BCS era. Okay? It magnifies these institutions that are smaller, that are trying to build themselves, just the mere opportunity of being included gives them a chance to go and grab the gusto. That's why America loves college athletics. And the people that are running college athletics need to know that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Tim Brando with us, Fox Sports with us, and has been on our show many times, and we appreciate it every single time he is. 4:26 is the time.